This is Planet 76, your source for all things Philadelphia 76ers. We've got another great episode coming your way today, and we're cleared for takeoff. Let's go. All right, Planet 76, episode 86. Welcome in February 26th. A lot of six. A lot of six for this episode 86 again. Welcome. I'm one of your co-hosts, Troy. This is Michael here with me as always. We are a weekly podcast covering all things Philadelphia 76ers. And in today's episode, so we're post All-Star break, we get to recap Sixers action at home against both the Grizzlies and the Celtics. I pause after that because that was a little bit of a heartbreak. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about the Sixers bench and how that performed against the Celtics. Talk about some needs there. A little scary there, Michael. We'll talk about, again, like we did last week, why seeding in the East can make a big difference on the Sixers' playoff chances this year, and for everyone in the East, where they find themselves in round one is going to dictate a lot. And then a look ahead to what's to come this week. 4 games this week. Against the Heat twice, home and away, and then on the road in Dallas and Milwaukee. So we'll get into all of that. Again, 2 tough games this past week, but it doesn't get a whole lot easier for the Sixers. They do have, by record, the toughest schedule remaining in the NBA. So we'll get into all of that fun stuff. But we will, after I toss it to Michael, I think we'll start with what happened last night between the Sixers and Celtics. But Michael, how are you doing? How after that game? How you feeling right now?
You know, it was kind of heartbreaking, I can't lie, to to see the Sixers very nearly win the game, because they were leading for not a majority, but a large portion of the game. Did you end up catching the whole thing?
Yeah, 15-point lead in the third, right?
And then they had the 15-point lead, and then before that they were up 8, I believe. So multiple leads in this game, looking really good against arguably the best team in the league. They limited Tatum very well. They limited Brown pretty well too. The Sixers played really good defense. And then fourth quarter rolls around, and then they leave Al Horford open 5 times for 3. He makes all of them. Surprise to no one. Surprise to absolutely no one. Al Horford scorches the Sixers. What else is new? And then Tatum hits a game winner, and then Embiid hits a half court, actually nearly full court heave.
70
just kind of throws it up, and he drains it. But of course, in Sixers fashion, it doesn't count because he was 0.3 seconds,
right, basically, yeah,
0.3 seconds on the clock, and he had the ball in his hands. The Sixers lost this game the only way that the Sixers could have possibly lost this game. And when I say that this was a 100% winnable game, they had the win.
Right.
It was right there. They had the win. But of course, ice-cold Tatum has to make a contested 3. Yep. And then everybody was saying, oh, why was Melton guarding him? Well, McDaniels wasn't in the game, so that's the only other player that really should have had the opportunity to guard Tatum there. And Melton had a hand up. I mean, The contest was fine. He just kind of...
What are you going to do?
I don't have an explanation for why the shot went in,
right.
But either way, Sixers lose, what was it, 110, 107?
Yes.
Final score. Embiid was amazing. Harden was very good as well. James Harden has been oddly good in the fourth quarter this season. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's some stats out there about Harden in the fourth quarter, but he's been oddly really good, specifically in the fourth quarter. And I mean, this whole team has been oddly good, specifically in the fourth quarter this season. A lot different than Sixers teams of the past. So that's good, and that's something we saw in this game too, which is where most of that 15-point lead occurred in this game, was the fourth quarter. So overall, I'm not really too upset with the game itself, but obviously, and I'm sure you'll say this too, obviously a little disappointed in the way it ended.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it just stung, right? It just stung, and it stung in the third quarter when you're up 15, and Al Horford goes on a personal 9 or 12-0 run on 3 or 4 threes, and then
No, he had 15 in the fourth.
well, I think he had 4 threes in the third.
Oh, you mean in that sequence?
Right?
Oh yeah, he had
and
like
then,
3 or 4.
Yeah,
Great.
then he had his 5th 3 in the fourth.
Oh
Just
man.
draining, man. Like, I mean, it just hurt. And of course it's him. Of course it's him, right?
Of course.
You know, and there's more and
course.
more people every time the Sixers play the Celtics. There's more and more people convinced that the 1 year he spent here was, you know, as a spy for the Celtics. You know, it's just like, how is he? We saw him play in the Wells Fargo Center plenty of times.
Yeah.
I don't recall him doing that ever. You know, knocking down 4 or 5 in a row. So that hurt, and that, you know, that's what got him back in the game, is his run that got him back in it. And then, you know, you think about the way they lost. Yeah, hurts a lot. But like you said, it's an 82-game season. It's one game in that, and so that doesn't bother you as much. It just, you know, of course, it had to be the Celtics that this happens to. But, you know, where I go, again, we're 23 games out from, you know, the end of the regular season, and where I go with this, you know, initially, because, again, who cares, regular season game between two teams that are going to the playoffs. But the thing that matters, again, is the Sixers are chasing this team in the standings. And this was an opportunity to beat that team, to, you know, chip away and hopefully, you know, again, in pursuit of the 1 seed that's very, very important this year. Not only for home court, but because of matchups and who you're going to play in the second round, and avoiding the Milwaukee Bucks or the Boston Celtics in the second round, you know, if you end up getting the 1 seed. But it just hurt for that. Just not good. And I think the 2 games this week, Memphis and Boston, if you were, you know, just watching the progression of those games, and you'd have told me at the end of the week, all right, Sixers won 1 and they lost 1, I would have put a whole lot of money on it, saying that they lost the game against Memphis and they won the game against Boston, because they did not deserve to win the game against Memphis. They, you know, played well enough to win the game against Boston. And it just hurt. So, you know, Derek White, some notables. Derek White came off the bench, had 18 points and a game-high plus 25 in the plus-minus category. He killed them. We spoke about Horford and what he did. I did find it interesting. You touched on this. I want your opinion or your thought process on this, because they were even talking about it, you know, the guys who were calling the game. But to have no McDaniels on the floor for the last defensive possession, I guess, you know, going with James Harden in that scenario, who would be the guy that they would sub him out for, would be McDaniels. Your thoughts on that? Should McDaniels have been on the floor? Should he not have? Or is it kind of just it is what it is? He wasn't on the floor. But again, 6 seconds left. Sixers have no timeouts. It's not like, you know, I don't know. What's your take? Because I thought that was interesting when they pointed that out. Hey, no McDaniels on the floor. They brought him here for this. Or is it kind of just is what it is?
Yeah, I agree with them. I think you, and if it's Harden, okay, because it's only 1 possession.
Right.
But in a situation like that, I feel like McDaniels is a better option to have, because in reality, and I think someone pointed this out afterwards, but in reality, you know, the ball's probably going to Tatum.
Right.
So it wouldn't have taken a rocket scientist to figure that out.
Right. Yeah, you saw him in the backcourt, right? You knew the play. Everybody knew the play.
Right.
Yeah.
So knowing that, I think putting McDaniels in is a good idea. And
yes,
I'm not blaming Melton. I just think having a guy like McDaniels, who's a little taller, wingspan, has the advantage in wingspan, can get up higher to contest even more.
Mm-hmm.
So that shot becomes even more difficult. So I would definitely have McDaniels in. And if it means taking Harden out, that's fine, because at that point, Harris might be a worse defender, but I feel like Harris is a little better than Harden.
Yeah.
Just because of his length and his size.
Right.
So I'm fine with taking out Harden in that possession to put McDaniels in, but
Right. I think given
anyway,
that situation, and you're likely not going to see a situation quite like that
yeah,
again necessarily, because the situation was Sixers have no timeouts, Celtics have the ball, shot clock unplugged with 6 seconds, tie
mm-hmm.
game. Meaning, again, it's the NBA. Like, the Celtics are getting the last shot, right? I
Yeah.
know we saw what Embiid did, but like, you're not gonna have an offensive possession unless it goes to overtime, meaning that Harden doesn't have to be on the floor. However, if it was 30 seconds in the game left, Sixers have no timeouts, and there's 15
Yeah.
seconds on the shot clock, then yeah, you better bet Harden should be on the floor. Because what if the Celtics make or miss or whatever? There's going to be 10, 15 seconds left for the Sixers to go down and run a play on offense, and you need James Harden out there for that. But when there's no shot clock, you should probably go with your best defensive lineup. And there were, 2 timeouts before that final play for the Celtics where they had an opportunity to do that. So kind of interesting. The plus minus issue. I mean, that's the point, kind of the whole game, right? Like the starters certainly did enough to win the game. They outplayed Boston starters as far, in the plus minus category, and the bench was an issue. Most notably, Paul Reed played for 4 minutes and he was a minus 14. 4 minutes, he was a minus 14.
Yeah.
Again, you mentioned it too. Tatum didn't particularly play well, right? 18 points,
No.
but 7 of 17 from the floor, started even colder than that. But again, it's a credit to their depth. Like we've talked, a little bit about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but most notably here, last night was Al Horford and Derek White, and no one was notable on the Sixers bench. I think they had 2 guys score, in McDaniels and someone else, right?
Maxey, I think, had 8.
Yeah, Maxey and McDaniels combined for 12.
Yeah.
Niang didn't score. Paul Reed didn't score. Whoever else,
Yeah.
Shake Milton, I don't even know if he played.
He played a little bit, but I don't
Right.
think he scored.
He didn't score. And
Yeah.
that's an issue. It's funny because we've talked about that the last couple weeks. The Celtics bench, their depth, and that's what lost the Sixers this game.
We did talk about that, didn't we?
Right.
We
So
did.
what do you take away from that? We've preached it. The Celtics have depth. The Sixers don't have as much depth, and that's literally what beat them, right? I mean, that's what beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Embiid can only do so much. Harden, played decently. Harris had a great start. He finished with 19. PJ Tucker, shout out to him though. 16 boards, 7 points. I had a couple, big shots, big plays in this game. But what's your thought there? And then we'll move on to a little bit of the Grizzlies. But what's your thought again? This depth thing, and how big of an issue was that last night as you're just watching the game?
Well, the issue is non-existent if you don't. In this game specifically, looking at it through a vacuum, this issue is non-existent this issue is non-existent if you don't leave Al Horford open 5 times on the perimeter. Because in the grand scheme of things, that is why the Sixers lost this game.
Yeah.
Because they left Al Horford open 5 times from 3. And obviously they were the space he had varied depending on the possession. Some shots were more contested than others, but he was pretty wide open for most of those 3-pointers. And he made them. I don't think he went 5 for 5, but he made 5 3-pointers, and all of those 3-pointers were the result of the Sixers helping off of him onto Tatum, who was, again, like we're talking about, ice cold, on Brown, sometimes even on Smart, which was weird. So if you just stick to Horford, and if he makes one less 3-pointer, if you get out and close out on one of those, the Sixers win.
Yeah, right. Pretty crazy. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, that was kind of the breaking point.
Like, a lot of people, I think, were making this game out to be more than it was. And yes, the Sixers bench wasn't good, but if you contest one of those Al Horford shots, the Celtics don't win this game.
Right.
Jason Tatum does not get that game winner. He might make it, but
more.
Yeah,
hurts even more when you say that.
Yeah.
Again, they're making it out to be more than it is, and that's rooted in the fact of what happened at the end. That's rooted in the fact that the Celtics are now 3-0 against the Sixers this year. They can't just they can't get over the hump and all of that. But it's a basketball game. I saw one tweet that was like, Celtics are a very good team. Sixers are a very good team.
Yes.
Celtics won the game tonight. End of story. Like, they just won.
It took a missed Joel Embiid heave from full court for the Celtics to win.
Right.
That's what I.
0.2 seconds too late.
I think that's what I posted too last night. I said it literally took a very late Joel Embiid heave from full court for the Celtics to win. Simple. That's it.
Yeah, is what it is. And you move on. And again, I think it's more so of a conversation because it's the Celtics and because of what the standings are right now. But yeah, not a fun way to lose, but you lost the game. Is what it is. Grizzlies, however, that game did not look good for a long time. Sixers outscored the Grizzlies by 17 in the second half. Harden had 31 on an efficient 10 of 16 from the field, 7 boards, 7 assists for him in that one. Embiid did not, shoot. He wasn't efficient in this one, but listen to the stat line for like a quote-unquote bad game from Embiid. He had 27, 19 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 blocks. The only downside, again, was 7 of 25 from the field, but to be that productive in the box score and yet that lack of efficiency from the field is significant. John Morant was quiet, 15, 3 of 16 from the field. That was a fantastic ending in the Sixers. It was not looking good again, but they surged and made some stops, hit some big shots. Harden and Tobias Harris from the corner, and particularly for 3. But that was a fun one to watch that one end. I don't know if you caught that one, but what'd you think?
Dude, the Grizzlies game?
Yeah.
So I caught everything. No, that's a lie. It's so weird because there will be games that I can't watch until the very end, and almost every time that happens, the Sixers end up winning. And this Grizzlies game was not an exception to that because they were losing, and the last few minutes of the fourth quarter, when I started watching, they came. I'm not saying anything. I'm just
keep
making,
it up. I'm saying keep it up.
I'm just making an observation. They ended up winning. Embiid had multiple clutch defensive possessions against Jaren Jackson and John Morant and Xavier Tillman, and the Grizzlies, quite frankly, choked. I mean, that's really all it came down to. The last one of their last possessions was I remember vividly was 2 Desmond Bane threes. One of them was lightly contested. The other one was heavily contested. Then another shot, another offensive rebound for the Grizzlies was a Jaren Jackson heave from the corner, nearly falling out of bounds.
Yeah,
they choked.
Right.
They choked.
I remember that possession. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was just it was. I don't know if you saw the last year's game. Was it? Yeah, last year's game. When Maxey got like the leak out to end the game. Well, it was a 2-point game, and he just it was very a lot of parallels between last year's game and this year's game. Sixers got a stop up by 2 points, and then someone breaks away for a dunk on the other end. It was Maxey last year. It was Embiid this year. So a lot of similarity there. But Sixers do win that one, 110-105. Again, of the 2 games they quote-unquote deserved to win or should have won or looked like they were going to win, that was not the one it looked like they were going to win, but they did. So that made me think a little bit before we look into what's upcoming on the schedule. So there's 23 games to go. Not an easy schedule ahead. We touched on the road trip that's coming up. And so thinking through expectations and all of that and where this team is, where they need to be, what they need to work on, what they are good at, why don't you give me a couple positives, right? Like, we need some positives after that heartbreak last night. The Planet 76 fans need something positive about this team that's going to be encouraging. And then we're going to be fair. We're going to talk about some negatives, some things to clean up, some things to work on. But why don't you give me 1 or 2 positives, and then I'll give 1, and then we'll talk about some negatives, and we'll look ahead to what's to come. So what's something that you're like, okay, I feel good about this for the 76ers team right now?
Well, I feel really good about 1 through 8 on this roster. And I think for me that's where I still give them a puncher's chance to maybe compete with Boston and or Milwaukee. Compete, I use that lightly because I'm still a little unsure. But I give them a puncher's chance. I think McDaniels, I think Maxey / Melton. I don't know what's going on with that. And who's the other player I'm thinking of? And Niang as well. And Reed, I think, too. So if Reed plays, I think it's 9, but I don't know.
Okay.
We still have no idea about the backup
center
position. So I think 1 through 8 on this roster, I'm very confident in that. In them, whatever. So there's 1. 2, this team is still, whether you want to talk about record-wise, talent-wise, this team is still a top, I'd say 7-6 team in the league.
Sure.
I think because they were the best team in the league in the month of January, and I'm not sure what the stats look like in February, but I know they had kind of an up and down month. But I'm still very confident in this team overall. I still think they're one of the best teams in the league. That's something I can say for sure. Because after the obvious few, Milwaukee, Denver, Phoenix, fully ideal Phoenix, obviously with KD,
sure.
Denver, Boston. After that, maybe throw in the Clippers if you want. If you want the Grizzlies, I'm a lot lower on them than most, so I would put the Sixers over them. I'm very confident in this team being at least a top 8-7 team, if not a little higher. So I think those are 2 things that we can look to.
Sure. Let's repair that heart a little bit, right? Like that's a good thing. This is a top 7-8 team in the league, and that's for sure.
Right? You'd agree with that, right? Like,
absolutely. You know what I mean? I think even to your point, it could be higher. It could, it's not lower. And that's a conservative number, I think. And you look at even. Again, standings aren't everything. But
that's what I'm saying. If you want to look at the talent, if you want to look at the standing, the record.
Sure, and what they've done lately. Mm-hmm. Again, this is a team that was red hot, we lost one this week, but we had a 5-game win streak coming into Saturday night against Boston. They had a real long win streak way before that. They went out west and won some road games, 5 in a row that you predicted, I might add. But, there's a positive in the fact that, this is one of the best teams in the NBA. It just is. Mm-hmm. It just is. And again, however you want to tier that off, maybe Boston and Milwaukee are tier 1. And then, in the mix with the Sixers, some other teams that you mentioned are kind of right there as well. So that's certainly a positive. The positive I'll say that, we can be happy about right now is the health of this team. I mean, think about how many games Joel Embiid's been playing. Think about how many games James Harden's been playing since they've returned from some early season injuries. I mean, everybody on this team had a foot injury in October, November, December, right?
Yeah.
But they're healthy now, and that's a good thing. With 23 games to go, you wanna tighten up things, and it's hard to tighten up things if you're missing 3 guys from your rotation. But everyone is pretty healthy, and that's a good thing. All right. So what about some things that concern you? Again. 23 games to go. We want to look good. And I know this might be a softball question because, all right, well, if the top 8 you're happy about in the Sixers rotation, then maybe one of the negatives is that 9 and 10. So you can go that way if you want. But what are some things that you're like, this is a negative for this team and this concerns me, especially come playoff time?
Yeah, one thing is definitely that 9/10. Depending on if the Sixers do go 10 in the playoffs, which they did last year, I think. They did the year before, I know that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So if they end up going with 9-10 in the playoffs, and this kind of does tie into my second, is the backup center position still kind of concerns me because I don't know. What is Dwayne Dedmon even going to do? I really don't. I really don't. I mean, he's injured now. Is he coming back? Is he going to get rotational minutes? What's the deal with this guy? Daryl Morey was on a podcast and he said Dwayne Dedmon is dealing with a plantar fasciitis issue or something, but he's all good now. Well, why isn't he playing, dude? I mean,
right.
so I don't know. I much, and I think we talked about this before, but I trust more Reed / Tucker as the center rotation, and I'm hoping we don't see Harrell anymore. I don't think we've seen him at all. I know we didn't see him in Memphis or against Memphis. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Against Memphis or against Boston. So I'm hoping he's good. I'm hoping he's kind of just chilling on the bench for a little while. So this it still does concern me though, because like I said, what is Dedmon's role? What is he gonna do? I still don't understand the point of bringing him in. I get he's a bigger body, he can defend a little bit, better rebounder probably, but he's ancient. You know, I understand. We all get it. Glenn hates to play young players. We get that. I'm surprised he's even playing McDaniels. I'd hope he plays him because we traded for him, but
yeah,
I don't know. What do you think? I don't like.
Oh, yeah, I don't see that Dedmon's going to do anything. Again, I think what we said last week, if I remember correctly, was the three guys. I mean, it seems like we haven't seen Harrell in forever.
I hope it stays that way.
We just got back from the All-Star break, but Harrell, Reed, and now Dedmon, maybe. It can be super situational now. And where we kind of landed was I don't think we necessarily are in favor of being all situational come playoff time.
No.
It almost might be best to give one man the show, and unless he's playing terribly, to stick with it. And I think both of us are in favor of that person being Paul Reed. However, he ain't perfect either.
True.
That's why we're talking about it in this backup center scenario and situation. So that's certainly the negative right now and the most pressing thing. But not only that, I mean, again, I know we're fresh off, the scars of last night against Boston, so it's fresh on our minds. But there's still some bench concerns and even like some role issues. That's like one negative I'm trying to still figure out is like Shake Milton. Is he going to play 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Is he going to get 20 minutes and get some looks and get to be able to run the offense? Is George Niang going to be taken out if he misses 2 threes in a row? One negative I think that I have right now is just the plug and play of the bench because it is so different. I mean, we have Tyrese Maxey, arguably, he's really is our third option offensively. Sometimes the second option as far as go and get a bucket because of how talented he is. He's coming off the bench. There's just some things that aren't clear, and I think that affects NBA players and like their mental state. If you don't know how many minutes you're going to get tonight or if you're going to see the floor tonight.
That's true.
And so I would like over 23 games for that to be cleaned up, for it to be okay. These, you 8-9 guys, you're it. You're going to get, come playoff time, you're going to get your 12, 14 minutes off the bench. You're not going to not see the floor. So that's one thing that I would say would be a big thing for me right now is just the plug and play off the bench is just so random, it seems right now, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think that kind of helped to lead to what we saw last night,
and he's my other negative
against Boston. So, all right. So, again, 23 games to go, a tough schedule, and we will see what happens. But so Eastern Conference standings again. I mean, it's not like the Sixers have any issues as far as what's behind them, but what's in front of them is the issue. Boston and Milwaukee, 44-17 and 43-17 respectively, and then 39-20 for the Sixers, and then Cleveland's 39-25. I don't know how so many teams have played so many more games than the Sixers, but everybody's played like 5 or 6 more than the Sixers, because Cleveland has the same amount of wins, but they got 5 more losses. So not a whole lot of pressure behind them, but a need to see what they can do in front of them. Again, last night kind of hurt that. as far as what the Sixers can do. But again, upcoming Heat at the Wells Fargo Center before the Sixers hit the road to Miami on the first day of March on Wednesday. The Mavericks on Thursday, Miami, Dallas back-to-back. And then the Milwaukee Bucks on Saturday the 4th. I don't know if Giannis will be back for that.
Yeah, he had another injury
played.
last night, I saw.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see. That's only a week away, certainly. 6 days now. But, all right. Why don't we do a few fact or
Let's go.
cap? I'm going to bring it back. Haven't done these in a while. I got 4 for you. Some of what we've been talking about already. But it should be good. And the first one is a little bit of a heater as we talk about the Sixers and their bench and all of that stuff. So first one is this, is Tyrese Maxey. Factor cap. Tyrese Maxey should be starting.
I guess fact. I'm kind of indifferent to that because a lot of people have been saying Maxey's kind of getting lost in his bench role. But still, the Sixers could really use that kind of scoring off the bench. And I think, for the most part, I think it's helped this team. I don't know how many people would agree or disagree with that, but overall, I think him off the bench has helped the Sixers because the scoring, the ball handling, and Melton can do a little bit of that too. But I trust Maxey more in a situation where the Sixers need to score.
Right. I know we usually rush into the next one, but I do want to talk about this one a little bit. I don't sit too differently from where you are, I'd say. I did see some of those comments about Maxey and saying, oh, he looks lost, he looks uncomfortable, he looks this, he looks that. And then I was like, well, let me check what the numbers say. And, I mean, he's still, barring a few games, he's still very productive, right? Like in the whole month of February, he was in single digits just twice. One of those being last night against Boston. Now, his points per game, as you think early season, he was up over 20. He's dipped in the month of February, only averaging almost 16 a game. But again, some of those are misleading because early season, Tyrese Maxey, he was kind of the guy because of injuries here or there. But since the Sixers have been at full strength and he's been coming off the bench, the points production does drop, and I think that drops regardless of starting or coming off the bench. I do, as well as you, I like the punch off the bench that he provides because I think he does. I don't think he looks lost necessarily. I think the total minutes matters, and I would say that he deserves more minutes than Melton.
Yes, I agree.
Like last night, for example, they had the same amount of minutes played, I think, and I might have more of an issue with that versus, an issue with who's starting. So, yeah, I don't hate it. I really don't. I think it would be cap to say that he should be starting. But, yeah. So, all right, next one. Embiid and Harden. Just given health, given age, given all of that, given where they are in the season, Embiid and Harden are playing too many minutes per game, as of late. Factor cap. Because,
let me see.
In my opinion, I wrote the question, they are playing a lot of minutes.
Let me see here.
He's got to do some research for this.
Harden's playing 37 minutes this year. Well,
disgusting, right?
Yeah. It's not great. He was playing 37 in Brooklyn, 36 the year before in Brooklyn. I don't know.
He's toward the Harden's toward the top of the league, I think.
So that's half of the question. Sorry, I gotta find this. Embiid's playing 35. Yeah, that's too many, especially in comparison to years past. He played 34 last year, 31 year before. And the backup center position was better last year for the Sixers. Obviously, up until this time last year, but still it was better.
Right.
So, and Embiid was playing less minutes, so... Well, he was playing 1 minute less. I'm going to say fact. I think that's fact.
I agree. I just think, just given the stage of the season, again, they have the Cavs have played
Yeah.
5 more games than the Sixers. So the last 23 games of the season are going to be, there's going to be some back-to-backs in there. There's going to be 4 or 5 game weeks. And I think moving forward, get these guys some rest. And I think Glenn did allude to that when asked about the upcoming schedule. He said, there will be some guys who get rest. But I think even the games that they play, get these guys a breather. Let's get them ready for the playoffs because that's what matters. All right. Fact or cap? Again, given the context, I'm giving context to all these. Given the context of the Eastern Conference and the Celtics and the Bucks, so getting the 1 seed is the only shot the Sixers have of making the NBA Finals is if they get the 1 seed. Fact or cap?
You want to go on 3? We both say it. All right, you ready?
Okay.
I'll count down from 3.
Yes.
3.
All right.
2, 1. Fact. Yeah.
Fact.
Well,
why?
I think did we talk about this? But I don't know if we did.
Last
We
week
did,
about
yes.
how the second round,
Let's
if
just
they're
say-
not the 1
let's
seed,
just
they're going
say
to play
this.
the Bucks or the Celtics.
Yeah.
That's
Let's
my
just say
thing.
this: the Sixers may have to play the Celtics in the second round, and I'm just gonna keep it a buck. They're probably gonna lose if they play the Celtics second round, and I don't want to talk about what will happen after that. So
Right.
let's just hope and pray that does not happen.
Yeah, well, that's why last night I was so, again, more so than the loss. It's the
Yeah.
loss in the standings, and that's important this year. We're gonna talk about it every week, I bet, from now until
It's
then.
just that
because
it really is that
of how
important.
weak the East is, how top heavy, I should say, how top heavy the East is with the Bucks and the Celtics, and any chance that you can avoid those teams for as
Yeah.
long as you possibly can in the playoffs is a really good thing. And the 1 seed this year is going to be able to do that, so that's why I think it's huge. All right, the Sixers should play more small ball with PJ at the 5. Fact or cap?
I think fact. I like the Sixers small ball. I think they're pretty well equipped to do that. Last night it worked very well.
Give it
That's
a
where
shot.
a lot of PJ's rebounds came from. Shout out to PJ Tucker. I love to push PJ Tucker agenda all the time. 16 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds. I'm gonna say fact because, and it is situational
Yeah.
still, but I like it.
Yeah, I'd say fact as well.
Mhm.
It's very situational, but it's also very situational in the understanding that we have that our
Yeah.
concern is the backup big man.
And
for the
PJ does
Sixers.
help
That
that
was one of our
concern, too.
negatives. That's right, and PJ helps that. And if that's a plug and play that you can have that's going to be productive, and again, if that happens, that means Embiid's off the floor for those minutes, and you can buy him a few minutes, give him a shot there. Why not try it out? All right, that's Factor Cap, and this is Planet 76, episode 86. We will see you next time to break down some Sixers action as they see the Heat twice this week, and then on the road against the Mavericks and the Bucks. You can catch that here on Planet 76. Peace. If you are a Philadelphia 76ers fan, this is the podcast for you. Planet 76, a weekly podcast covering all things Philadelphia 76ers. We'll see you next time.